All right, Jasmine, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you again for taking time out of your day to join us on the program.
Of
Very much
course.
appreciate it. Yep. So I'm just going to do a quick introduction. We're live right now, and I referenced this issue earlier during the program, but I want to properly introduce you. So, everybody out there listening, either on the internet or on 89.1 WIDR. Oh, quick reminder the following thoughts, views, and opinions are not necessarily those of 89.1 or Western Michigan University, no matter how dope or insightful they may turn out to be. But uh, so we're joined now. There is some kind of arbitration going on between the university and some of their part-time instructors. And I wanted to invite on, this is Jasmine LaBine, who is president of the Professional Instructors Organization chapter here. And we're going to just kind of dive into this issue because it's there's been an article on MLive. There's some contentiousness. Before I dive any deeper with kind of follow-up questions, could you just tell the folks at home a little bit more about like the union you represent and the overall issues that you're having with the university right now?
Sure. So we are the part-time instructors at Western Michigan University. So those of us who are not tenure track or faculty specialists, so we are paid by the credit hour of what we teach. We're maxed out at 9 credit hours per semester. Biggest issues that we have been facing for a long time, but especially during this specific contract negotiation, include really unfair compensation is a huge thing, as it is with a lot of uh, bargaining situations, but it's also just a lack of respect for the instructors, especially part-time instructors at Western, which is not aligned with Western's mission. It's not aligned with their strategic plan that was released in 2020. Um, to give one very concrete example of the lack of respect that we are experiencing, we aren't even guaranteed a parking pass through Western, and so we actually put it into financial context. A parking pass through Western for a year costs about 30% of what we are paid to teach a class. It's a 3 credit class. And so while we are currently afforded a parking pass, something that is being given to us, Western does not want to codify any sort of agreements in our contracts that says that this is something that we will have forever. And so it's things like that that seem really silly and inconsequential that really communicate a message of a lack of respect. And along with that, the adjunct position in general, there's a cultural problem with the way the adjuncts are looked at in the university system, where there's a lack of stability for a lot of adjuncts. That's especially prominent at Western, where we are considered hired at the start of each semester, and at the end of each semester, Western, in theory, fires us, and we are never sure whether we'll have work from semester to semester. And some of our folks have been teaching elections for 20 plus years, so it's very unfortunate. But the three main pillars that we've been looking at are stability, compensation, and respect.
All right, thank you so much. And so jumping off that a little bit. So, for those of you, we've talked a little bit about, college campus issues and undergraduate pay, not undergraduate, but instructor pay. More broadly, this is like also like a big national issue as well. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to the university. When we've reported on other stories, it seems like there's a lot of universities kind of use their part-time instructor pool in order to kind of cut corners. I noticed in an article that like on average y'all are making something like 22 grand, which is really those are very low wages. That straddles the poverty line. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more to
Yeah,
uh,
and that number is if we are actually given our full course load. And that's not actually very common for folks to be given more than a class. And so, yes, it's a huge problem. It's something that we see time and time again as we're having organizing conversations with folks and we try to grow our union is that the university sees part-time instructors as very fortunate to have this opportunity to teach. It's something that they think we do on the side, that we, come in from our 40-hour-a-week jobs and we teach night classes. And that's simply not the case. Many of our members, myself included, are working for multiple institutions teaching. We have a lot of members who are doing side jobs, working retail, doing food service type stuff, all sorts of different jobs. But it is very, very rare that folks are able to make it's impossible for folks to make a living out of working for one institution as an adjunct.
And just to give folks a sense at home of the actual hours in that, I've helped out with education stuff off and on myself, but you're talking about if you have two jobs, particularly, something being a part-time instructor also involves a lot of where we're talking about grading papers, we're talking about having meetings with students and a lot of off-site homework. What's a ballpark average? How many hours are y'all putting in a week for the type of pay that you get?
It's really, really difficult to measure. It really depends on the courses that are assigned. If you have course development, the thing that one has to keep in mind is it's for a 3-credit course, it's about 3 hours in the classroom, at least an hour a week of office hours. You mentioned grading time. Think about, so that alone puts in at least 6 hours a week that you're doing, which is extremely low and extremely conservative for one class. And then you have to think outside of the work that you're doing for that particular class, if you are invested in making sure that your work is current and that you're offering the best possible experience for your students, you're not just teaching the same thing every semester, you're revisiting your work, developing new courses, looking at more current research to support your teaching. But also, one thing that I personally have experienced, and I've talked to a lot of instructors about, is that the students that we interact with during a given semester are not just the students that are in our existing classes. We are working to build.
Oh, no,
Jasmine.
Jasmine.
Offering career advice, things like that. And so it's not just the full-time faculty that are doing things like that. We really do believe in, I would say, the vast majority of us believe in cultivating relationships with students and really being there to have those long-term relationships. And that's really difficult when we have such an unstable job where we're not even sure if we're going to be at Western from semester to semester.
Well, I definitely, I had a follow-up question to that, but I think before I do that, something else that really struck me, especially kind of reading this MLive article. So Nancy Mansberger, the director of academic labor relations at the university, made some comments basically saying that your demands were excessive. And there was also part of it, they said that according to some study that they're not really being transparent about, y'all actually make more money than most part-time instructors. So I was wondering if you could respond directly to that. I think it ties a little bit into the whole kind of compensation respect thing, but I wanted to hear kind of your response to those comments.
Sure. So I'm limited in what I'm able to say about those numbers and where they came from, but I was involved in the financial presentation that Western gave, and I can say that there were many institutions that were left off of that list that should have been involved. Many of the numbers were questioned just because there are so many of us who work for multiple institutions. We have some questions about where exactly those numbers came from. And many of the institutions, or at least a handful of the institutions that were on that list, were 2-year community colleges. And so Western is comparing their pay to the way that adjunct instructors are paid at non-4-year institutions and non-research institutions. So funny numbers.
Yeah, funny numbers indeed. We do a lot of media critique and analysis on the show. I mean,
yeah,
that chart looks.
That's my discipline, so I'm right there with you. I'm a communications instructor.
Yeah. So, kind of going back to so the next piece is so what is it specifically that y'all are seeking this arbitration. I know this is kind of drawing out more than you thought. You're getting more pushback from the university, but what are you and the union ultimately seeking through these negotiations?
So one thing that I want to make clear is that while this process has been drawn out over a long period of time, we actually have only had 6 bargaining sessions, and one of those was an introductory session, and one of them was a financial presentation from Western. There has not been a lot of dialogue between Western's administration and our bargaining team. It was made very clear from the beginning of our bargaining experience that Western wanted this to go as quickly as possible, probably because the full-time faculty union AAUP is also in negotiations, and that's definitely their priority. But we wanted to take time, and we wanted to have actual conversations and actual dialogue with their team about finding reasonable compromises. And it's been very clear throughout this, especially when they pretty suddenly decided to bring in a mediator without any actual counter proposal to our compensation. They just said, no, we want to stay at the status quo. When they brought in a mediator, that told us that they're not interested in having conversation with us. And we really, in the spirit of collective bargaining, that was our goal. We wanted to talk with them. We wanted to work with them. We want respect, and we can't achieve that if we're not having real conversations with each other. And so that's the number one goal, is to build those relationships so that we are able, moving forward, not just to end with this contract and say we've achieved X, Y, and Z, let's see in 3 years. You know, we want to have those relationships. But again, I think compensation is going to be our chief concern. So our first offer was obviously our first offer. You ask higher than what you expect to receive. But we do want to see an increase in wages for everyone. We also want to see some more increased compensation for those who achieve what we call instructor 2. It was achieved in our last contract negotiation. It's the part-time instructor equivalent of tenure, kind of. So those who have been with the university for a certain amount of time and have quote unquote proven their value to the university through their teaching philosophy and through positive evaluations. We have this status. Currently, all it really says is that no one within a department can be paid more than an instructor 2, and that they should, in theory, receive some kind of priority in course assignment. But we want to see increased compensation for that, and that should lead us to some level of job security. So those are 2 main priorities. And again, with the respect thing, this parking pass thing is bigger than it sounds. To be able to just say, you know, one really simple thing, that we want to be able to park at our workplace without having to pay for it. Just, it's a symbol of respect, and so that's something that we're going to fight pretty hard for.
To a much lesser extent, as a community DJ provider, I mean, this is pre-pandemic, but it was always tricky trying to make sure I have guests coming in the studio. Sometimes elected officials, I just have to run out with a bunch of roll of quarters, or and for myself as well. You know, but
it's the same trying to get a guest speaker in a classroom. You know, you can call and get like the day pass from DPS or whatever, but it's such a hassle. It's just one of those things that's so fundamental and so simple that the university can give us, that yes, we understand it's a real cost to them, but it's something that should be pretty easily expected as an employee of the university, that you can park at your workplace.
Yeah, and even I graduated from Western in 2010, and even to this day, like, yeah, parking is always.
I have both of my degrees from Western, and it's one of those things that's just mind-boggling to think all of the years that I've given to this university, and I still have to fight for parking.
Okay, so I have a question. I haven't heard this come up necessarily as much in this particular case, but I know in previous kind of union negotiations, something that Western brings up, and this comes up at many universities, is, you know, like, oh, we would like to give you more pay or more benefits, but the budget, it's not in the budget, or we don't have the funding to facilitate that. So I don't know, what would be your response to that line of argument, that the university doesn't have enough money for pay?
So we're hearing that we don't have money. We're not necessarily hearing that we would like to pay you more. But they have drawn a pretty hard line in the sand that there isn't money. We have worked with other unions to conduct research, and the university is financially healthy. We've found that they are looking at a $10 million surplus for what I think is the third year in a row. They have money, and that's not including the $550 million that was just donated to the university. So it's not about not having money, especially with a 3% tuition increase that they just announced. It's about the way that they choose to distribute those funds. You know, one of the big headlines that we're hearing about right now is this marketing campaign that Western is going through, that they've spent, I think the last number was $689,000 over the past year on this new branding initiative that they're doing. And so if they have money to change the way that the W looks on our signage, they have money to pay for, or to at least fairly pay their part-time instructors.
And just some advice to the university, you know what's better PR than good graphic design is treating your workers well. But,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
So I think I don't have too many other questions, but I wanted to make sure. So you know, for students who are out there listening to this, or maybe just people in the community at large, how can they help? Is there any way that they can kind of are you asking for anything in particular, like as far as solidarity from the student body or people in the community?
Absolutely. So one major ask that we have right now that's pretty simple is to sign a petition that we have that is from community members, students, alumni, anyone, in support of part-time instructors and fair pay for part-time instructors. And that can be found on our Facebook page or at our website, which is piowmu.org/get-involved. There are lots of different resources that you can use there. So piowmu.org/get-involved. The other big thing, if you are a student, especially if you know that you've had part-time instructors and you would like to write a letter on behalf of one of your part-time instructors about the impact that they've made and how they have improved your experience as a student or prepared you for your career, we would love to see those. And you could send those letters to com@piowmu.org or through the contact field on our website.
Okay, great. So I think, was there anything else maybe that we didn't get around to that you specifically wanted to speak towards while I have you on the line here right now?
I think the biggest thing is that this is a community effort. I think for those of you, if you are a part-time instructor and you're not currently a union member, we need those numbers to be strengthened. So talk to us. We would love to get you involved in the union, but also it's going to take a village to get this, to get the solidarity that we need to get Western to pay attention to us and really start working with us some more. So if you're not an instructor, if you're a student, if you're alumni, if you're a community member, we can still use your help. And so please, please, please sign that petition. By signing the petition, you will be looped in for updates on any kind of solidarity events that we have planned, and we would love to have you.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for all the work that you do. Again, our show, we really try to do a lot of stuff to prop up like working class activism here in the community, and having a union or having an entity fighting for those things at the university makes it more for a healthier and more robust organizing community overall here.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Thank
we
you so
appreciate
much.
the work that y'all are doing as well. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. What's the best way for folks to get in contact with y'all?
I would say through the website, so piowmu.org.
Okay, great. Okay, we're gonna wrap it up now. Again, if you're watching online, we'll be playing the show on Saturday at 2:00, and we'll probably be replaying this interview the next week too, just because it's holiday weekend.
Sure.
For now, let's go ahead and close out the show. I want to thank y'all for listening. Thanks again to Jasmine for taking time out of her day to appear on our program. Again, you can find our full episodes online on our Facebook page. Tune into our program on Wider every Saturday at 2:00, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We chop up our show into smaller, shorter, more digestible segments. So we're going to head and close things out. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And everybody out there, keep on fighting for that revolution solution.